From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, President Buhari says his administration has laid foundation for future successes as Nigeria commemorates 21 years of uninterrupted democracy amid COVID-19 outbreak. All Progressives Congress Screening Committee disqualifies Governor Godwin Obaseki, 2 other aspirants from participating in forthcoming Edo governorship primary. Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki rejects verdict of APC Screening Committee, says he will not appeal outcome of screening exercise, describing it as unjust, a show of shame and a travesty of justice. And the UK government to compel wearing of face masks from June 15th. Defaulters risk the payment of a fine. Plus business, news from Abuja, the FCT, and later from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, federal government announces plans to launch platform for mineral mining rights application.
On sports news tonight, federal government unveils signage of the late MKO Abiola at the National Stadium in Abuja.
And from Abuja, technocrats, major political players analyze Nigeria's democratic rule in the last 21 years. They chart new course for the country on our special Democracy Day program.
It is Democracy Day, a day set aside by the federal government to honor the late businessman and politician Moshood Abiola, believed to have won the 1993 presidential election. It's the second time Democracy Day is being celebrated on June 12 since the return of democracy in 1999, as it was previously marked on May 29th. To commemorate the day, power was handed over to a democratically elected government after years of military rule. June 12 was first marked as Democracy Day in 2019 after President Buhari on June 6, 2018 announced that the Democracy Day would hold on June 12th of every year, also observed as a public holiday. Following the decision, the House of Representatives on December 6, 2018 passed the bill seeking to amend the Holiday Act, which was also passed by the Senate on May 16, 2019. And on a day like this, it's essential to relive the memories of Nigeria's journey down the path to democracy. Tonight, our political correspondent, Seun Akinbaloye, takes us through the 1999 return to civilian rule and the picture of where we are 21 years after.
Nigeria's 60 years journey after independence have been split between military and civilian rules. For almost 4 decades, the military reigned supreme before the Abdul Salami Abubakar junta said bye-bye and handed over power to an elected government of Olusegun Obasanjo, himself a former military leader. Obasanjo was a phase of the return of Nigeria to democratic rule. Experimenting a civilian rule whose manual has been dusty because of years of military interregnum. The missing link in federal leadership, the legislature back on stream. Impeachment became the order of the day. Nigerians then became agitated about the constitution, which they say was hurriedly put together by the military.
We got it wrong when the military came into our politics, changed our constitution, retained the name a Federal Republic of Nigeria, but turned it into a unitary republic.
Wobbling, stumbling, and falling, but the nation keeps going. Obasanjo's 8 years was done. Another elected president, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, took over from the same political party, PDP. He could not conclude his tenure, though. He died in office. A major point in our political history, a new rule in succession. Goodluck Jonathan then rose to power but could not win a re-election in 2015. The reign of the PDP came to an end.
Your Excellency.
An opposition political party, APC, took over the affairs of the country under Muhammadu Buhari. The political agitations in the country did not stop. Buhari recognized the winner of the 1993 election, a poll referred to as perhaps the freest and fairest in the nation's history, but the mandate never had sway. Buhari declared June 12 Nigeria's new democracy day. 21 unbroken years of civilian rule, but many Nigerians still demand more politically from the process.
There has been significant shifts in terms of growth, but you are clear about the fact that we have seen much more abandonment of a concrete national planning.
If we had competent Nigerians running the country, things would not have gotten this bad.
There are threats to this democracy. I'm afraid that there are tendencies that are threatening, that are de-democratizing, de-democratizing Nigeria's political architecture. The question is, what should we be doing to re-democratize?
21 years on, and Nigeria's democratic journey continues. Shunwa Kimaloe, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the president has been paying tribute to those Nigerians who have paid the price to ensure democracy thrives in the country. In a national broadcast to mark the day, President Muhammadu Buhari said the country has enjoyed 21 years of uninterrupted democratic rule as a result of the sacrifice made by the nation's founding fathers. The occasion also provided the president the opportunity to remind Nigerians of the efforts being made by his government to position the country for development as the government focuses on priority objectives of his administration.
It's the second Democracy Day to be celebrated on June 12, marking 21 years of uninterrupted civil rule in the country.
Fellow Nigerians.
And as a routine, President Muhammadu Buhari delivers his address to the nation, paying tribute to the founding fathers of the country and other pro-democracy activists.
This day provides us an opportunity to reflect on our journey as a nation, our achievements and struggles. It is a day to honor our founding fathers who toiled to establish our republic and every Nigerian who has worked tirelessly to sustain it. Sustaining our democracy thus far has been a collective struggle, and I congratulate all Nigerians and particularly leaders of our democratic institutions for their resilience and determination. Nigeria would always be governed by the rule of law, and I will do my utmost to uphold the Constitution and protect the lives and property of all Nigerians.
Nigeria's economy has faced challenges in recent time, made worse by the outbreak of a COVID-19 pandemic. Notwithstanding, President Buhari reels out the achievements his administration has made so far in the area of economy.
On the economic front, our objectives have remained to stabilize the macroeconomy, achieve agricultural and food security, ensure energy sufficiency in power and petroleum products, develop infrastructure, fight corruption, and improve governance. We have witnessed 11 quarters of consecutive GDP growth since exiting recession. The GDP grew from 1.91% in 2018 to 2.27% in 2019, but declined to 1.87% in the first quarter of 2020 as a result of the decline in global economic activities due to COVID-19 pandemic.
Security is not left out in the president's speech as he restates his government's resolve to secure Nigerians as well as the nation's assets through effective implementation of community policing strategy.
Ending insurgency, banditry, and other forms of criminality across the nation is being accorded appropriate priorities, and the men and women of the armed forces of Nigeria have considerably downgraded such threats across all geopolitical zones. All the local governments that were taken over by Boko Haram insurgents in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa have long been recovered and are now occupied by indigenes of these areas who were hitherto forced to seek a living in areas far from their ancestral homes. I regret recent sporadic incidents with tragic loss of lives in Katsina and Borno states as a result of criminals taking advantage of COVID-19 restrictions.
And a matter that has grabbed the headlines recently, the issue of sexual violence was not left out of the president's speech.
I am particularly upset at recent incidents of rape, especially of very young girls. The police are pursuing these cases with a view to bringing perpetrators of these heinous crimes to swift justice.
President Buhari did not end his speech without calling for more cooperation from the media, promising to ensure that freedom of the press is guaranteed in the country.
One of the pressure groups in the front line of the campaign for the restoration of democracy in the 90s, National Democratic Coalition NADECO, is worried that the federal government is not paying attention to issues critical to the nation's survival. The group, made up of prominent Nigerians, is insisting on a return to true federalism to resolve what it terms the incessant political instability, economic misery, and unacceptable level of national insecurity. According to NADECO, the President Buhari's administration has recorded low achievements in its promise to secure Nigeria, to revamp the economy, and to fight corruption. In the words of NADECO, the current centralist and unitarist government that has occasioned inequity, unfair play, injustice, discrimination, and disrespect for the rule of law within the skewed, warped, and lopsided national structure are unsustainable and cannot endure any longer in Nigeria's heterogeneous society. It says the ethnic nationalities, which were the building blocks upon which Nigeria was constructed, should meet to and agree on a federal constitution for Nigeria. Still taking more reactions, elder statesman and former governor of Kaduna State, Balarabe Musa, is asking President Buhari to identify all those who participated in the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election and prosecute them for treason. At a gathering to mark the Democracy Day at his residence in Kaduna, Alhaji Musa also advocated the restructuring of the country in such a way that will devolve more powers to either the states or regions instead of the present system that gives the federal government excess powers.
Right from the beginning, when we started commending Buhari for doing what we didn't expect with regard to June 12, I said for him to complete his task and convince us qualitatively, he should use his position as the President of Nigeria and the Chief Executive of the country to investigate the circumstances that led to the annulment of June 12, those responsible for the annulment of June 12, and punishing them effectively so that it can never happen again.
In part two, after the break, we have more on Nigeria's Democracy Day and celebration amid COVID-19. We'll be joined by a professor of strategy and development, Anthony Killer. Stay with us. Welcome back. If it has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Buhari says his administration has laid foundation for future successes as Nigeria commemorates 21 years of uninterrupted democracy amid COVID-19 outbreak. Well, Nigeria remembers MKO Abiola as a former Kaduna State Governor. Balarabe Musa asked federal government to prosecute those who annulled the June 12, 1993 presidential election. The All Progressives Congress Screening Committee disqualifies Governor Godwin Obaseki, two other aspirants from participating in forthcoming Edo governorship primary. The Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki rejects the verdict of the APC Screening Committee, says will not appeal the outcome of the screening exercise, describing it as unjust, a show of shame and a travesty of justice. And the UK government to compel wearing of face masks from June 15th, defaulters risk the payment of a fine. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. The call for restructuring Nigeria is also being echoed by a member of the People's Democratic Party's Board of Trustees, Chief Olabode George. In an exclusive interview with Channels TV's political correspondent, Shewon Kimale, Chief George says recognizing June 12 as Democracy Day is not enough. He challenged President Buhari to leave an indelible mark in the annals of Nigerian history by ensuring that he restructures the country.
We have recognized June 12 as Democracy Day. What is democracy? Restructure.
You want President Buhari to restructure Nigeria?
They should go back. I didn't want to jump the ship. They should go back to that document.
The 2014 compass.
Right. Get the report out for justice, for fairness, and equity. Because right now, what do you see? There is so much agitation from all around to say, are we real members here? Are we real part of the system? You want the pages of history to be kind to you, so that you would have embedded oneness, togetherness, the issue of nationalism in this country. Right now, the amount of anger, because with a view to launching the real celebration for the Democracy Day. Because right now, it is just by mouth.
Let's talk about this now. Be joined on the news at 10 by a former Cambridge University teacher, Director, Center of Advanced and Professional Studies, and a Professor of Strategy and Development, Professor Anthony Kila. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Thanks for having me.
And a happy Democracy Day to you.
Thank you.
Albeit very quiet one at this very unusual circumstances we're celebrating today. But it's been an interesting 21 years of democracy in Nigeria. The return to civilian rule is what we're celebrating. In these 2 decades, how would you assess our growth, good or bad?
Well, I think we're on the way. In terms to the date, June 12 itself, I think celebration is it's a wrong word. It's not a sin to use it, but it's a wrong word. June 12 should be a day for reflection. It should not be a day to attack or to defend government. It's a day to reflect on we as a people, who we were, who we are, and who we could be based on the way we live together. You see, part of the problem we have as a country, when you ask me how far, I say how far? Well, so far not too good. A lot has been done. A lot more could have been done. We've missed a lot of opportunity in 21 years. But to get that view, we need to take a long view. There are days in the year, in the life of a human being, in the life of a country, which we need to learn to put aside partisan affiliation and government belonging and look at ourselves as a people. June 12 is one of those days. Yeah. So we should be talking about democracy, not governance.
So you really don't buy this, back and forth between the politicians today? Those who are saying President Buhari should have done this, or this is how we should have done this.
No, absolutely. It's pedestrian, it's limited. We should be, you see, democracy is more than governance. Governance is a part of democracy.
Right.
Governance is about, to put it in a very pedestrian way, governance is who clears the rubbish and who does the road. Democracy is, do we align with a part of the country or not? Are we free to express ourselves? Does one man, one vote count? Am I guaranteed that regardless of where I'm born and who my parents are, is my future certain?
So where do you think we are now? You're asking these questions. Do you have any answers?
Well, I think we have a long way to go. I think our political process is not very good yet. I think it has to be perfected. I think our primaries are not perfect. I think in these 21 years, quite frankly, I think sociologically and psychologically, democracy has taken more for Nigerians than it has given them. Maybe it has given us, more governors, more ministers, more local government chairman, but in terms of our reasoning, we are in a situation in our lives where you speak to somebody who's expected to be learned in Nigeria. You think a graduate is learned, after spending so much years in study. We're at the situation where if somebody supports party A, whatever party A does is right. And if you show them that your party is wrong, they will tell you, well, look at your party too. That is the death of humanity. It's the death of intelligence. We have not grown a crucial element of democracy, which is citizenry, which is the idea that regardless of who I vote for, I am a citizen.
And that's a perfect place to end it. Thank you, Professor Anthony Kila, for joining us on the News at 10. Hopefully we shall have more to celebrate next year.
Thank you.
Let's head on to Abuja now, where Ibrahim Adra is standing by for more on the News at 10. Hi, Ibrahim. A happy Democracy Day to you.
Happy Democracy Day to you as well. Well, on the 21st anniversary of Nigeria's democracy, various experts and leaders in the country's socio-economic landscape have been assessing how the nation has been faring. They bear their minds on Channels Television's Special Democracy Day program, where areas like the economy were examined. For the Minister of Transportation, Mr. Chubuike Amechi, the railway revolution holds the key to the country's post-COVID-19 economic resurgence. However, foremost economist and CEO of Financial Derivatives, Mr. Bismarck Rewani, believes Nigeria's post-COVID-19 economy faces rather gloomy future.
You cannot do without transportation. The roads are bad. When they walk on the road, you need to reduce the volume of cargoes that go by the road. And when you do that, you secure and protect the roads. And those goods will be transferred to the rail lines. So you can't quantify the benefits that you get out of these rail lines. You can't quantify the benefits you get out of transportation. You can't quantify the number of jobs you create out of this. All that will be part of the process of reform. So you don't look at how the ability of the rail lines to generate cash to be able to pay back. It will be extremely difficult to do that. We believe that other sectors of the economy may have to contribute to pay back the loans we are taking.
Now we have the COVID crisis. Is the COVID crisis going to lead to a change in the political terrain in the world? Yes, but let us look at what has happened in the last, and I would say, the last decade. But we started democracy in 1999. It's been a swing, and it's been a long journey from prosperity to austerity and then to recovery. In between, we've had two recessions. One in 2008, one in 2008, which is not in Nigeria, that was global. In 2016, we had a recession, and now we are going into another recession. But in between, we've had a recovery. Now, this is the situation. In 2008, we had huge buffers. If you take your external reserves minus your external debt, we had about $48 billion in 2008. We had about $14 billion of buffers, whereas slim in 2016, and now we have no buffers anymore.
On his part, a professor of international jurisprudence, Akin Oyebode, is challenging the nation's leaders to stand and address the nation's problems squarely as he decries the way the country is being governed.
You might call it redressing. You can call it anything. But the way Nigeria is run, is governed today, as I said, is completely dysfunctional. We need a paradigm shift from the status quo, because Nigerian politics seem to be in a perpetual state of becoming. We have to sit down and negotiate, renegotiate the basis of our living together. That is what we mean by facing the problems of Nigeria squarely.
On security, the recent upsurge of bandit attacks in Katsina State have been described by the Defense Headquarters spokesman, General John Enenche, as reprisals by the attackers on the residents for providing information to the military. Former security expert Ona Ekomo, on the other hand, believes the risk factors have to be analyzed in addressing the nation's security challenges, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
The remote reason for those actions was that you gave our positions away to the military, and they use other excuses to bounce on them. And that has been the major challenge. If we had the cooperation from the general public, particularly from those communities and those localities, where those terrorists, criminals, and bandits operate from in sleeper cells and hibernations, we would have long before now completed the complete degradation.
You know, we have to look at the risk spectrum in our society, and then we need to do proper assessments of those risks where they lie, and then before we can proffer meaningful solutions to those risks, and then start implementing them. You know, so it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a thing.
When the news at 10 returns, we have more stories from our Abuja studio. Plus, federal government announces plans to launch platform for mineral mining rights application. That'll be on our business news. Do join us again. Thank you for staying with us. Let's talk some politics now. Edo State Governor Mr. Godwin Obaseki may not be contesting in the democratic process of electing a new governor for the state on the All Progressive Congress APC platform. A screening committee of the party today disqualified Governor Obaseki and two others from participating in the Edo governorship primary. The chairman of the committee, Professor Jonathan Ayuba, explained that Mr. Obaseki was disqualified on the grounds that his HSC and National Youth Service Corps discharge certificates are allegedly defective.
The 7-man screening committee of the APC, led by Professor Jonathan Ayuba, presents their report, which he says is conclusive and signed by all members of the panel. Professor Ayuba explains that the committee was thorough and meticulous in conducting the exercise. He says the process was recorded and the unedited recording will be made available to the party. After explaining the process of the screening, the chairman of the committee announces the disqualification of Governor Godwin Obaseki and two others.
In view of the in our interaction with the EC's rest, we concluded that the high school certificate was defective. The NYC certificate of the National Service Corps and the act that has currently taken the party to court, because these are some of the issues to which we have attached, and based on the party constitution, this has made us to recommend that the above candidate, therefore, His Excellency Godwin Obaseki, is not eligible to participate in the election.
Although Governor Obaseki was disqualified for having defective higher school and National Youth Service Corps certificates, former Minister Chris Ogenwe and Mr. Matthew Idweyekeme were disqualified for having irregular names in their credentials. After the presentation of the report, the national chairman of the party asked disqualified aspirants to take advantage of the appeals committee.
The screening committee report is still subject to the appeal committee, and the appeal committee will give opportunity to all those who have participated in this exercise to take advantage of the appeal if they have reasons to disagree with the findings of the committee.
With the disqualification of Governor Obaseki and 2 others, the stage is now set for Pastor Sage Izeyamu, Dr. Pius Odubu and Mr. Osaro Obaze to contest the primary election of the party fixed for the 22nd of June 2020.
Meanwhile, Governor Obaseki's office says he will not appeal the outcome of the screening process of APC candidates for the Edo State governorship election. His spokesman, Crusoe Sage, explains that appealing would be an effort in futility as long as the APC national chairman, Comrade Adams Oshomole, is running the affairs of the party. Mr. Osage, however, says Governor Obaseki has asked all his teaming supporters to remain calm and await further directives. He describes the screening exercise as a mockery of the democratic process.
Arrant nonsense, absolute travesty of justice. You could hear the man who was making the announcements when he was stuttering and unable to even read the very illegal report. So there's no grounds for disqualification. All the things they mentioned were complete nonsense, make no sense. One of it, a typographical error from NYSC. Does that mean that the governor did not go for NYSC just because there was one letter missing from the name, according to them, and several other things that are completely useless? Anyway, it didn't come to us as a surprise. We already knew the outcome of this process. We have said this for the umpteenth time, that we're not going to get any justice from any process superintended by Comrade Adams Oshomole. And we ask that he should recuse himself from the process because he's an interested party. He's a judge in his own court, and he cannot give justice to the person with whom he's been in contention for over a year now. I want to put it on record that we're not going to appeal this illegality, primarily because Oshomole has already announced before the glare of the whole world that he is the Supreme Court, that the screening committee is High Court, the appeal committee is Appeal Court, and himself and the NWC, they are the Supreme Court. So, I mean, even the blind can see and the deaf can hear that Oshomole is hell-bent on taking our party on a journey to nowhere, and we wish him a safe journey.
And still staying on the issue, former national chairman of the APC, Chief John Oyegu, has described the disqualification of Governor Godwin Obaseki from the party's Edo governorship primary election as a, quote, hatchet job. Chief Oyegu, whose reaction is conveyed in a statement that he believes disqualifying Obaseki is part of a plan to install what he describes as stooge that will allow some people unlimited access to Edo Treasury. He says the disqualification is a clear indication that internal democracy has been murdered in APC, a party that was founded on the principles of fair play and good conscience. Chief Oyegu warns that APC will suffer dire consequences in Edo State if the disqualification is not speedily reversed. Now, in a bid to expand its reach in Lagos and satisfy customers, Northwest Petroleum and Gas, an indigenous petroleum products marketing company, has opened a mega station along the Gbagada-Oronshoki Expressway. The new facility was officially opened for business by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who says his administration will continue to provide enabling environment to attract investors.
Sitting on a land area of 10,000 square meters, the new Northwest Mega Filling Station is a sight to behold along the Gbagada-Oronshoki Expressway. Another move by the Petroleum and Gas Company to spread out and ensure efficiency in its operations. The retail outlet is officially open for business by the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. For the Governor, this is timely to redefine the economic disruption caused by COVID-19.
There's no better time than now, when we're all being ravaged with the pandemic, that for us to have a different conversation. I'm believing to express to our people that even whilst the pandemic is going on, businesses in some sort needs to begin to happen. And so we certainly need to continue to create an atmosphere and an environment where businesses needs to thrive, needs to do well, and we need to open up our economy so that people can see the essence and the benefit that Lagos and Lagos State government brings to businesses.
For the investor, setting up a world-class outlet goes beyond profit-making. It's also about providing jobs and making an impact in society.
I tell you that today, you don't have less than 50 people starting work in this place. Okay. And we believe that it's not just about making money, it's also about training them. And for the school, we promise to adopt. Okay, like I said, the best you can give a child is education. I'm only here today because my parents gave me education. Okay, so we believe that we'll be very impactful on this community.
The 30-pump retail outlet is the largest to be built by Northwest Petroleum since the company ventured into downstream oil business in 2014. The 3-in-1 mega station also accommodates an office complex and other services to give a one-stop quality experience to customers.
Let's return to our Lagos studio where Amarachi is standing by with more on the news at 10.
Thanks, Ibrahim. Here in Lagos, the state government has discharged 90 more patients of COVID-19 from 7 different isolation centers in the state. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu confirms in a statement that out of the 90 fully recovered patients, 30 are female and 60 males. 28 patients were discharged from Onikon, 9 from Etiosa, 10 from Agidingbi, 5 from Bagada, 2 from First Cardiology, 10 from Lekki, and 26 from Lagos University Teaching Hospital Luth isolation centers. With this, the total number of patients successfully managed and discharged from different isolation facilities in Lagos now stands at 1,137. Delving back into politics, the APC chairman in Edo State, Mr. Anselm Ojezuwa, believes the handwriting had always been on the wall concerning Governor Godwin Obaseki's disqualification. Mr. Ojezuwa criticizes what he believes is the high-handedness of the party's national leadership.
I will only draw attention to the fact that the governor made a comment just after his screening, alluding to the fact that he does not expect to get justice in the exercise. Therefore, the result of the screening exercise did not come to me altogether as a surprise. Be that as it may, I would want to appeal to our leaders and our members in Edo State to remain calm. It's early days yet. The validity of the screening committee has not been established. A proper response to their report is yet to come because the leadership of the party in Edo State will be meeting tomorrow.
Education is the fulcrum upon which any nation can develop, more so in modern digital age. This was a submission by the former Pro-Chancellor of the University of Lagos, Chief Arthur Mbanefo. He said this as he handed over the Arthur Manifold Digital Research Center to the esteemed institution to celebrate his 90th birthday. Our correspondent, Gimba Umar, reports. Well, that report will be ready later. Let's go now to business news, where Anne Wawodo is standing by.
Thank you, Marachi, and happy Democracy Day to everyone. The federal government has announced its plan to launch a website where mineral rights application can be submitted and processed to help tackle illegal mining. President Muhammadu Buhari made this known today in his speech to mark the June 12 Democracy Day, saying the platform will help block revenue leakages within the country's mining sector. The mining rights will allow the holder carry out mineral exploration activities within Nigeria. A sector contributed 8.85% to the gross domestic product last year. Meanwhile, the federal government's third sovereign sukuk has recorded a 446% subscription, and that's after 150 billion naira was offered to investors at the bond market. According to the Debt Management Office, the high demand for the sukuk came from investors like ethical funds, insurance companies, fund managers, and retail investors who staked 669.12 billion naira on the offer. The third sovereign sukuk issuance follows the debut issuance of 100 billion naira in September 2017 and the second issuance of another 100 billion naira in December 2018. Proceeds of the sukuk are expected to be used to finance 44 critical road infrastructure projects across the 6 geopolitical zones in the country. And away from that story now, the Ogun State House of Assembly has approved the state government's request to access 250 billion naira, a 3-year medium-term expenditure framework. The program is to help stimulate and grow the state's economy. The House, in a resolution, stated the funds will be accessed in tranches of 100 billion naira annually through either bond issuance, public offering, book building, or any other means approved by regulatory agencies. The Assembly's decision was in line with the state governor's request for approval to access the credit facility communicated to the State House of Assembly last month. Nigeria's stock market has closed today in observance of the June 12 Democracy Day, while stocks on Wall Street came recovering today from losses in the last 2 sessions. But let's find out how major markets across the world fared at the close of business. And that's business news. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, and happy Democracy Day to you too. Still ahead on the news at 10, the UK government to compel wearing of face masks from Monday, June 15th. Defaulters risk payment of fine. Plus, more stories from our London studio and around the world in 5. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. 22 years after his demise, family members gathered in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, to eulogize the sterling qualities of acclaimed winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief MKO Abiola. They also appealed that the presidential pronouncement on June 12 be gazetted, while all entitlements due to the late business mogul be paid to the family.
What I want the federal government to do now, to put this is reality to the House, so it can become the law when the National Assembly passes it. He told us that they actualized the June 12, and he was given as president. So we want it in black and white.
And now to foreign news. The UK Transport Minister Grant Shapps has announced a £100 fine for anyone found using public transport without a face covering from Monday. From June 15, it will be compulsory for people to wear a face covering when on public transport, and operators will be able to refuse permission to travel if someone is not wearing a face covering in the UK. Here's more international news and around the world in 5.
Hello and good evening from the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Authorities in the US state of Washington have hit back after President Donald Trump threatened to take back a police-free district controlled by protesters in Seattle.
Can't happen if this is gonna work.
Police abandoned a precinct there on Monday after days of clashes in a move city officials say aimed to reduce tension. Hundreds of people have been gathering there to demonstrate, hear speeches and attend events over the death of a black man, the 46-year-old George Floyd, while in Minneapolis police custody. Mr. Trump said the area had been overtaken by domestic terrorists. Governor Jay Inslee said Mr. Trump should stay out of the state's business, and Seattle's mayor said any invasion of the city would be illegal. French policemen have rallied against a ban on chokehold restraint techniques imposed by the government in France. The government's action was in response to public anger over the death of George Floyd and alleged police brutality in France. French Interior Minister Christophe Castaner said earlier this week the chokehold arrest would no longer be taught in police schools. But the police unions did not welcome the decision, arguing the chokehold saved lives and was a technique that officers needed until an alternative was found. The UK economy has shrunk by a record 20.4% in April due to the coronavirus lockdown. That's according to the British Office for National Statistics. The Bank of England and the country's Budget Office have warned that Britain could be heading for its deepest recession in 3 centuries this year. Next week, much of Britain's retail sector is due to reopen as long as shops follow social distancing rules. Intense protests have broken out in Lebanon after the local currency lost 25% of its value in just 2 days. Protesters have burned tyres and blocked the streets of the main cities in the country. Some clashes between protesters and the police were reported in Beirut and the second biggest city, Tripoli. The Lebanese pound has lost 70% of its value since October 2019, and Lebanon defaulted for the first time in its history in March. The video conferencing app Zoom has admitted it suspended accounts of human rights activists as requested by the Chinese government. Zoom has confirmed having disrupted or shut down the accounts of 3 activists on Chinese request before they were due to hold online events relating to the Tiananmen Square massacre anniversary and discussions surrounding the crisis in Hong Kong. Zoom has also suggested in a statement they will block any further meetings that China complains are illegal. The Chinese Foreign Ministry also said that Twitter should shut down accounts that smear China if it wants to fight disinformation. A Gambian man living in the United States has been charged with torturing political prisoners in his home country following a failed coup in 2006. Michael Sang Correa was a member of a feared paramilitary unit known as the Junglers. It has been described as a hit squad for the then president Yahya Jammeh. Soon afterwards, President Jammeh lost the presidential election after he tried to extend his 22-year rule. At least 10 Ivorian soldiers have been killed and 6 wounded in an attack on an Ivory Coast military point near the northern border with Burkina Faso. The soldiers wounded in the attack were flown back to Abidjan. It was not yet clear who carried out the attack, which was the deadliest in Ivory Coast since 2016. No one has claimed responsibility, but those responsible are believed to have come from Burkina Faso. North Korea has announced the regime sees little use in maintaining a personal relationship between leader Kim Jong-un and the US President Donald Trump. This comes as the second anniversary of the first summit between the two leaders. According to North Korea's state agency, the US hostile policies would prove Washington remains a long-term threat to the North Korean state. In response to this, Pyongyang said it will develop more reliable military forces to counter that threat. And finally, while the Great Ethiopian Run was cancelled due to the coronavirus pandemic, a virtual event has been created to replace it. The event is considered one of the biggest running events in Africa, and it was due to be run in November. It's been replaced instead by an online virtual event created by the Great Run organisers. The run would normally attract more than 45,000 participants coming from all over Africa and the world, but this year the virtual event was limited to only 500 participants and the normal distance of 10 kilometres was halved. The goal for this year's participants is to run 5 kilometres over the course of 1 week. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
The federal government has officially unveiled the Abuja National Stadium, named after the late Chief Moshood Abiola. The Minister for Youth and Sports, Mr. Sunday Dare, insists that the naming of the stadium is indeed a historic event.
The naming of this stadium today will serve to beckon other Nigerians who have ways and means, like Chief Abiola, to emulate Chief Abiola and embrace and support and invest in sports development.
And that's a wrap on sports news.
And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today said his administration has laid the foundation for future successes as Nigeria commemorates 21 years of uninterrupted democracy amid COVID-19 outbreak. That's it on the News at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night and stay safe.